Welcome to Lead. I'm Lyndon Balkran, and we have a really interesting conversation for you guys today. You know, as we bring the curtains down on another year, it's really important we stop and we take stock. Look back at the past year and ask the question in terms of the roadmap that you set out at the start of the year, the goals, the ambitions, the pursuits. Have you accomplished them? I think that accountability check is so important, and for many persons, the lack of accountability really prevents us from actually building momentum. Momentum is one of the most powerful resources an individual has, but that requires strategy. So today we're going to lead into 5 things, 5 keys to move from goal setting to goal smashing. First thing I want to talk about is time, right? We're watching this clock, right? And for many persons, time isn't an ally. Time is something that is actually working against us. Time is running out. We're actually chasing time. By this time, I thought I should have. By this time, I was hoping to accomplish this. But you don't lean into it. And it's so important to understand Scripture maps out a statement, a principle. It says that everything is a season, and there's a time to every purpose under heaven. Seasons are cyclical conditions that create an environment to capitalize on. That's what a season is. It always comes. So right now, end of year, we automatically go into a reflective season, a reflective mindset. What has gone well? How do we position? How do we move forward? There's a blank canvas, Jan 1, to go after it. But then it says that there's a time for every purpose, which means a period of time, a measure of time. And I don't see many persons stewarding time. So that's what we're talking about. That's why we're having this conversation right now, to help you get things right to go after 2026. My hope, and the reason why we're doing this conversation, is to make 2026 your leap year. Partner with me, guys. Stay on this journey. This is going to be your most impactful year ever with these keys and strategies we're going to give you guys. So let's talk about it. 5 steps, 5 keys to move from goal setting to goal smashing. Level 1, let me pause before I jump in, because you need to understand why we're doing this. When I do personal coaching and mentorship, I ask person a simple question. Where do you want to be by December 31st? Where do you want to be? What do you see? What's that picture? Most persons, they don't have it. And that's why we're going to give you guys these keys to help you get there. Maybe you did it this year. Maybe this year was a successful year for you. And if it was, congrats, right? Cheers. Let's celebrate and we're going to build on it. But if it didn't, it's going to help you, right? So 5 keys, move from goal setting to goal smashing. So level 1, when it comes to goals, I call this the unstructured category. This is where you have ambitions and pursuits, but no clear path to get you there. There's nothing documented. You are driven by ambition, you are driven by pursuit, you have a drive, but you're not swinging in any particular direction intentionally. It's like an archer. Bow and arrow, stretch back, fingers are blistered from pulling the arrow, but you are hitting nothing. And sometimes you may hit. And what this does, when you hit it, you feel good, there's a momentum, there's a drive. But in most instances, it's highs and lows, and you keep going through that. And what happens, you may make a couple of steps forward, but the lack of intentionality, you may end up going 5 steps back. The second stage is on making goals smart, right? For those of us who have done an MBA, done a bachelor's, or done management, you're going to come across the concept of SMART: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, or realistic, and time-bound, right? And in that instance now, your goals are documented. So it moves from, I want to lose weight, to I want to lose 25 pounds by December 31st. Specific, you can actually count to see if you hit the goal or not, right? And again, that's the difference between level 1 and level 2. Level 1 and level 2, in level 1, you're playing football without a goal post. So everybody is busy doing lots of things. Level 2, there's a goal post that is clear in terms of what you're going after, right? This is where you get your girlfriends and you go to your vision board workshop and everything documented is visual, you can see it. And there's a wisdom. Scripture says to write the vision, make it plain. So it's actually written down. You know what you're working towards. But that's the deception. While writing it is a good thing, there's a deception in just having documented goals. Let me tell you why. We judge others based on their actions, but we judge ourselves based on our intentions. And just having intentions gives us a false sense of comfort. I know what I need to do. And ChatGPT is making it 100 times worse. You just have to put in that prompt and say, how do I? What do I need to do to accomplish X? Anything. It comes out in seconds. So what happens now, we are bombarded by information, right? Information overload. But the inability to translate that information to action, that's why we are stuck. So I say it's the deception of information. That's what brings us to level 3. Level 3 is where you move from documented goals to systems thinking, right? And that is where now there's an actual plan of action. How do I lose 25 pounds by December 31st? That is where now you have what James Clear wrote in Atomic Habits, and I tell every single person, 2 books. If you are now coming up the curve in terms of practical, proactive living, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, fantastic read, and Atomic Habits by James Clear. There's a wisdom, he talks about overestimating the impact of big actions and intentions versus the value of small, consistent, intentional effort. You see, the latter, that's what level 3 is about. How do I break these larger goals into small, actionable steps? If I want to lose the weight, the 25 pounds, how much calories must I intake on a daily basis? How much calories do I need to burn? How many hours do I need to spend in the gym? That is now the plan of action to move you there. One thing that helped me along the way is having something called an implementation intention. and that's for persons who, procrastination, that's how you beat procrastination. You have implementation intentions. It says, tomorrow at 6:50 to 7:50, I'm going to do this every Wednesday. When my wife and I were building our preschool, we set up a meeting every Wednesday between 8 to 10. That was our window to sit down and document things and walk things through. So when you have that thing documented, you're not driven by procrastination. You're not overwhelmed as well with the big goal. All you're focusing on is the small thing, the small habit that compounds over time. But that's level 3. Most persons who get to level 3, they have a degree of impact because they are swinging in an intentional effort. Level 4 is where it gets very interesting, and this is where now you begin to secure the system. Level 4 is where you bring on, I call it every leader's secret weapon, accountability. I can always tell when a leader lacks accountability. They are driven by passion and pursuit and sporadic. And in those instances, high, low, lows, accountability is a leader's best friend because there's no drifting from it. I have guys in my life and I tell them I'm simply trying to earn my seat and keep my seat at the table. Because when I say I'm going to do something, they hold me account if I'm going to get it done. Accountability brings an additional layer of, by this time, you should have done this. And let me tell you this about accountability. It can be your mom. If the only person assessing what you're doing is your mom, you'll have always go around with an inflated view of self. You have to have guys who will come across and give you the hard truth. In the Caribbean, we are so negative. We have to put an additional layer. We have to call it constructive criticism. You have to be open to it. Seek it out, because any leader who lacks self-awareness, they're going to crash and burn. And the people who they lead will crash and burn as well. Level 4 brings on a high layer of accountability. And that helps you to move in the direction of purpose. Level 5 is a game changer. Level 5 is how you move towards a goal smasher, right? This is where you are building momentum. You are having consecutive wins. This is how you begin to have a high degree of resilience. Because let me tell you this, it's not wins all along the way. You're going to have some failures and disappointments. Level 5 is where you anchor a mindset. Level 5 is where you structure, where goals sit on top of identity, and identity is driven by vision. This is the secret sauce. This is the secret sauce, and that's why for a lot of persons who they go after goals that isn't anchored in identity, there isn't consistency. You know, Drucker said this, he said that culture will eat strategy for breakfast. And for most persons, they take that only in the corporate space. But it is equally truth. It is a fundamental truth in personal effectiveness as well. Your culture is your belief system. That's who you are, the underlying principles that govern behavior. If you don't see yourself as a disciplined person, if you don't see yourself as someone who is health conscious, if you don't see someone who is physically fit, and that's in your mind, you never translate that into reality. So that's what the first layer in terms of level 5 is about, anchoring your goals in your identity, who you are. So when I meet with persons, I tell them the powerful, I'm going to talk about in terms of chapter 1 of the book. What are your I am statements? Your grandmother wasn't a business owner, your mother wasn't a business owner, you want to be a business owner. It's hard to wrap that philosophy that I am an entrepreneur, that I am a successful entrepreneur. So you have to now anchor that in belief that this isn't just what you do, this is who you are. And that is how we begin to now reframe goals. The real value of a goal isn't your doing. The real value of your goals is in your becoming. It is who you become as you pursue your goals. It is the shift that happens in you as an individual as you pursue the goal. Because guess what? If you simply set the goal as losing 25 pounds, you smash the goal, right? You lose the 25 pounds. If your mindset doesn't change, in 6 months you put on 40 pounds. And then you go back and you're like, where's all this weight that I lost? And here you do, right? You get excited. You throw away all the clothes from your closet, right? You buy new clothes. But because your mindset didn't shift, your new clothes don't fit you. And that's what I'm saying. Level 5 is where you begin to now change the operating system. Goals move from what you are pursuing to who you are becoming. And it's now your identity. You are becoming a person. And that's why it's important to anchor. So goals lay on top of identity, but ultimately is geared towards the realization of your vision. What do you see at the end of it? So yeah, we build a 1-year plan. But this 1-year plan has to become momentum, like dominoes that you knock down. This leads to this, that leads to this, is building blocks. So everything that we do, my life personally, I've taken a wisdom from Nestle as I entered Japan with coffee. We are building coffee flavored candy to create a demand to help persons move to that. So you have to see your goals as steps on a ladder. Your goal is not the ladder. Your goal, the attainment of your goal is not the end game. That is just a layer that you are building on as you consistently move towards that. So guys, that's the framework, that's the system, that's the cheat code, right? But it takes the work, it takes intentionality, it takes reframing your mind and setting a system to help you move from a goal setter to a goal smasher. This is Lead, guys. Join the conversation, stay connected, drop me your questions, let's talk about it to help you make the leap as well.